Hello guys and welcome to my new format, Patreon Spotlight, where I will take a closer look at the most promising Patreon pages, talking about their content and what you can expect if you spend some money yourself. Since there are thousands of adult Patreon pages, I'll be your guide on this tour and show you the real gems you might not know about, because they're either not too popular or you never really bothered looking for them in the first place. And what's the most important thing when starting a new format? You guessed it. Roll the intro. Alright, so today we're going to talk about a page you might know if you ever spent some time in an adult game community. We're going to talk about Kaliyo. Kaliyo is the founder of the developer team of Roundscape Adorevia. His Patreon page has over 1,800 Patreons and earns around $17,000 per month. That makes his Patreon page the biggest adult themed page I've seen so far and definitely shows how anticipated their work is. But now you might wonder what Roundscape Adorevia is. Roundscape is an RPG which was originally made in the RPG Maker VX but was converted into MV after some time. So to make it easy for you to understand with what you're dealing here, here's a small quote from the Patreon page. The content of Adorevia, at first glance, is a peaceful and geographically diverse land, populated by an eclectic exotic mix of races and creatures, ranging from the beautiful but deadly sirens that roam the open coasts to the Futanari race of the Nexolem, whose very culture revolves around their constant lustful needs. We want to empower the player with as much choice as possible, allowing you to choose your gender, appearance, class and heritage as you embark upon an adventure that is both epic in ambition but profoundly personalized in execution. Sounds good so far? Well, indeed, but let me swing back for a little and tell you my story with the game. Some months ago, one of the writers of Roundscape PM'd me over Twitter and asked if I'd be interested in playing and reviewing his game. I was honored, but also a little bit unsure about all this. I knew about Roundscape for several months, but I never really bothered to play it, mainly for two reasons. I didn't like the in-game assets I saw on their Patreon, and also I was really confused about the artwork, because every single artwork I saw looked like from a different artist. So I was wondering why a studio with that much income isn't able to go with one artist and keep the game's artwork consistency, because it just gave me the impression of a lack of love for their own game. So he sent me a link to his game and I tried it out. Maybe I would be surprised by the gameplay, but I wasn't. I basically just ran around without a clue, found a lot of NPCs which wouldn't talk to me after giving me a quest, I ran into enemies that were way stronger than me and immediately threw me back to the title screen after defeating me, and also I found one bug which made the game crash. So I closed the game and thought about how to tell Wildquill that I won't review his game because I didn't want to slander it. But I didn't tell him anything yet. Around 2 months later he PM'd me with a newer version, and after calming down a little I decided to give this game another try. Even if it's bad, even if I would get mad by running into another game-breaking bug, I felt like I owe Wildquill and the Roundscape team at least to get my ass up and play it for 1 to 2 hours to really get an idea and overlook the problems that previously occurred. And you know what happened 2 days after I started playing? This!
But you said it's so bad you don't want to play.
Alright, let me explain you what happened. It wasn't the update which made the game playable, but my approach with the game. See, I judged Roundscape too quick. I was used to play games with an overall length of 1 to 4 hours and no real freedom. Of course the problems I saw were actual problems, but I gave them way too much space to ruin the game for me and preventing me to appreciate all the good things which I weren't able to see after cluelessly running around for half an hour on my first attempt. But now, after 30 hours of gameplay, I've seen enough to make the review that Roundscape deserves. So let's start off with the good things. Origin. As the quote already told you, you can choose your character, gender and origin. Depending on if you are male or female, there will be a lot of special scenes for you. Your origin will decide where you start the game and your overall backstory. You won't experience a whole new story, but a lot of dialogue has been altered to make it fitting with your backstory. Writing. The writing is the best I've ever read in an adult game. Seriously, the dialogues were written in a high quality English, a kind of English I can read and understand, but there's no way for me to recreate the dialogues in that style. You don't have to look at the characters to know how they feel, how they approach different situations or how their moral is, because even the dialogues give you a perfect idea. The writing for each single character is unique, but never feels forced or overdramatic. After playing some hours and eagerly reading the dialogues, I now understand why 3 of 5 people in the developer team are writers. Content. Okay, this is what probably surprised me the most. This game is huge, and by huge I'm not talking about huge for an adult game, but huge for every game. Huge like a AAA RPG game, huge like a Skyrim. After playing 30 hours I got to a point where the game tells me that I finished the first chapter and asked me if I wanted to proceed to the second, because some quests will be unavailable from that point on. And I was like, chapter 1? The fuck? So I asked Wildquill how much gameplay time I have left before finishing the game, and he casually told me that there will be an Act 2, which is probably even longer than the first one, and that the final Act 3 is about 60% done. Of course the gameplay time will vary depending on how much side quests you do, but you should get at least 40 hours of playtime for the 2 chapters, which are currently in the game, especially because there is so much stuff to do. There are a lot of side quests, each one will reward you with an age scene, a new partner or a new and special item. Each side quest narration is on point. All characters in your team are always with you, while you can only use 4 for the battle. But even if you focus on your 4 main characters, the others won't be quiet, because you will be taking part in occasional dialogues occurring while you travel through that huge world of Roundscape. Each character has its own affection and corruption stats that will change with dialogue options you choose in different situations. Those stats will again unlock new dialogue options and some new scenes. By the time I've been playing Roundscape, those are the characters I got. A tentacle monster, a sorceress, a succubus, an elf, a dwarf, a talking rod, a magician with a sword, a Nexilim, which is a Futanari race, a furry, an orc, and finally a seaman. Everything I mentioned above applies to these characters, and those are only the ones you can get in the first act. Oh yeah, and don't forget about the castle. At the beginning of the game you get your hands on an old and rundown castle. You can upgrade the castle in several ways, like cleaning up, adding new rooms, building stuff like a barn or a pub, hiring guards, training the guards to defend the castle against occasional attacks, and so on. Every character you find on your journey will get his own room in the castle. Some of them are actually helpful, like a shopkeeper or a blacksmith. Others are here to provide you with new personal quests or age scenes if their affection is high enough. There are even special quests which can be unlocked by upgrading your castle. So basically the castle is a game for itself and will probably sell for $5 to $10 on the L side. But here it is only a tiny piece of the whole cake. Okay, so let's talk about the things I didn't particularly like. Battle system. The battle system is okay. It is turn-based and works as part of a game which heavily focuses on its writing and content, but it's only slightly above average. You have several classes, a lot of different roles to fill, like the typical fighter who does a lot of damage, a mage who also does a lot of damage but has some good AoE skills, and a tank which seems to drag a lot of aggro onto it, even though it's not really explained in the game. You also have the possibility to change roles for your fighters, so you put the melees on the front line while keeping the ranged fighters and healers on the back line. That actually sounds quite nice, but the reality is that most of this stuff doesn't really matter. Okay, it seems like the front line gets attacked a little more than the back line, but you don't get any visual feedback on that. It doesn't feel like you really get rewarded for having the right setup, because it would work the other way around without giving you too much of a penalty. Also, there is equipment for every character, but there are just some attacks which don't really change damage wise, like the special attack of your protagonist. If you're level 1 or level 20, the attack always does the same amount of damage. Pretty good at the beginning of the game, but pretty useless after that. Also, a lot of spells involving status effects are just useless. For example, the succubus spells Curse and Fear. Curse decreases a target's defense, but in the end you will always be better off by just using a normal attack, because the debuff isn't significant enough to compensate the possible damage by your normal attack. The spell Fear adds a fear status to your enemy, but it doesn't seem to do anything at all. So I think at that point the developers overdid it a little. It is nice to have such a big variety of classes and skills, but some more tweaking for different spells and stats is definitely needed for future updates. But as I said, the battle system is neither bad nor annoying. It just has a lot more potential of being deeper and more satisfying. Story. While the story is told via all those greatly written dialogues, I didn't feel like caring about it at all. Yes, you have a bigger purpose. You have a main villain, but you don't really feel like that's the one that makes you want to level up and explore this world, because the world itself is the cause you're exploring it. You want to get the items, you want to find the companions, and you want to see all the sex scenes. You might know this from the Elder Scrolls series, for example, where it's just so easy to lose track of the actual main quests, because the world itself makes you spend hours and hours without even letting you think of the villain you need to defeat in order to save this world. But that's not actually a problem. The problem is the lack of leading through this gigantic world. You have a quest log, but at least for now it misses a lot of quests and is not working the way it should. So you will find yourself wandering through this world without having a clue of what your next quest is if you didn't read all the dialogues and screenshotting them as your own personal quest log like I did. Yes, it is confirmed that the developers will take care of that matter, but at the moment it's definitely an issue and worth pointing out. Artwork. The artwork is a double sharp edge. On the one hand it is fucking on point, and on the other hand it is just... I don't know what I should call that. But I won't judge you if you like art styles, I don't, but there's one problem besides that: the consistency. In that case, consistency is a really big factor of immersion, which is a really important aspect of every game. Think about watching something like Hellsing and then Stocking from Pantheon Stocking shows up out of nowhere. I talked to White Quill about it and he admitted that there is a problem, but there is no easy way to fix it. The art has already been drawn and I totally understand that they don't want to scrap all those awesome art pieces out of their game just because they were made by different artists. So as far as the art goes, we're having a little bit of a problem here, but gladly the gameplay and writing make up for it. Also, the time between the sex scenes usually is long enough so you don't really feel the immersion breaking at that point. You'll mostly just be happy to see some good quality art. I personally only found around 3 pictures I could objectively mark as effortless, the rest is really great. And to be fair, one artist wouldn't have been able to draw over 100 unique scenes in that period of time. Bugs. Let's be real here, this game needs polishment. Doors that don't work, people you can't talk to, clipping issues and occasional script problems. My game has only crashed around 3 times in 30 hours of playtime, so this is not game breaking, but it can definitely ruin your first experience like it did to me because I paid a lot of attention to it. I would have liked the developers to polish the content of the first act before starting to work on the second and third act. Especially on games with such a long development period and several alphas and betas, the developers should always try to deliver their content at its polished state before caring for more content, but that's just my opinion. So to summarize my impressions, Roundscape Adorevia is the best adult RPG I've ever came across, and I don't think that there will be anything comparable out soon. Yes, it has those bugs, yes it has different art styles, but damn, the writing is just so good, the world is huge and definitely worth exploring. There are so many characters, so much quest variety, there's just so much of everything, and trust me, if you're a fan of RPGs, this game just won't let you go. And my final answer to the question of White Quill, who asked me if I would play Roundscape without the adult content: yes. Yes, I would definitely play Roundscape even without the adult content, because it just has so much to offer. I did a mistake on judging this game too quick because all of these small problems, and I'm really glad that I didn't put it down, because now I can say without any doubt that those 30 hours were well spent on a well-crafted game. One thing I forgot to mention, by the way, Roundscape is not free. The developers aren't yet sure about the price tag and where they will sell their product. But for $10 on Patreon you can get the latest build and help them fixing their bugs and finally finishing their game. And if you're the generous type and want a little bit more than that, those are the rewards if you want to support them with a little bit more money. 25 or more per month, get access on exclusive sketches which didn't make it into the game. You only need to pledge $25 one time and you'll receive a digital art book as private message on Patreon when the game is finished. 60 or more per month. You'll have a guest appearance in our game, including a charming face sprite. Of course you can also make up a character, but please keep in mind that the character has to fit into the world of Adorevia. Usually the video would be over right now, but I still have one thing to mention. The team is simultaneously working on another project because the release of Roundscape won't take too long, and unlike Roundscape, I'm really hyped for this one. But I'll be quiet for now and just let you have a look on the trailer.
They built the arena after the war. Now a new war is brewing over who owns it.
I know I have what it takes to make it in the arena.
Well, I'm glad you think I look pretty strong.
I'm better than anything waiting behind those doors.
Remember, I'll be watching when you fall.
I can't describe how hyped I got for Arenas after seeing the trailer for the first time. This doesn't look like the quality adult games tend to have. This looks like a fully grown indie game which would probably even be successful on Steam Greenlight without the adult content. While the trailer didn't show too much and there's not much other material like screenshots for me to show, I still can say something about it since I talked to Wild Krill about it. They learned from their previous mistakes and go with one consistent art style now. I also expect great writing and freedom of decision like in Roundscape, and probably a more special gameplay since Arenas is not limited by RPG Maker. Even if I don't know that much about the game, it is already one of my most anticipated adult games in 2017. So that was my first episode of Patreon Spotlight. If you liked the video, feel free to tell me in the comments and like the video obviously. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more hentai game related content in the future. Wish you a nice evening and thanks for watching.